Shalom, shalom, shalom. First, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahushai, Ba'ashim, Rakab, Kodash, Tawada. Double honors to the elders of Great Millstone who are leading this word in truth and spirit and sincerity. And salutations to all the righteous brothers on the highways and byways that are bringing out this word. In the name of Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahushai. In truth, in spirit and sincerity. Barakateh Yahweh, Barakateh Yahushai, Barakateh Yahweh, Barakateh Yahushai, Barakateh Yahweh, Barakateh Yahushai. All praises. As you can see, today's edification is called Native American Indians, Latinos, and Negroes are the Israelites. Native American Indians and Latinos and Negroes are the Israelites that the Bible speaks of. So I'm going to play you this little clip of this video to show you. We're going to just show you something just to make you understand what happened. How is it that the Native American Indian tribes lost their heritage? How did they forget? How is it that the Most High was able to make the Native American Indian tribes, along with the Latinos and the Negroes, right, forget their heritage, forget who they were, forget who they are, all right? So we're gonna go to 1 second. How did the Lord? Now this is something. This video what I'm gonna quickly gonna show you, is to do with what Esau, what these Edomites did to the Native American Indians to enable them to forget their heritage. How did Jeremiah 17 and 3, 17 and 4 fulfilled? How was it fulfilled? Jeremiah 17:03, O my mountain in the field, I will give thy substance and all thy treasures to the spoil, and thy high places for sin throughout all thy borders, and thou and even thyself shall discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. And I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not, for ye have kindled a fire in my anger, which shall burn forever. So the Native American Indian tribes, the Latinos, and also the Negroes were discontinued from their heritage during the times of the transatlantic slave trade and when Esau came to the Americas. When Esau came to the Americas and brought the southern kingdom on those ships and came across the northern kingdom in the Americas, this was the beginning of the process of the true children of Israel being discontinued from their heritage. This was the beginning of the process of the Native American Indian tribes, right? The Latinos today, who are the indigenous people of North and South America and Canada and the West Indies, they call them Latinos. And the Negroes, who they call African Americans, West Indians and Caribbeans and Haitians, who descend from the transatlantic slave trade. This was the beginning of the Israelites completely being discontinued from their heritage in the Americas when Esau came to the Americas. Now we're going to play a little clip here. Listen carefully.
I stand before you today to offer an apology to former students of Indian residential schools.
When most Canadians think of Canada's darkest moments, they will often think residential schools. It began in 1876 when Canada opened its first of these schools. Put in place by the British Canadian government, they were an attempt at turning Native American children into clean English-speaking British Canadian citizens. This was done in many cases by forcefully taking these young children away from their parents and placing them into schools where any and all native traditions and beliefs were taken out of these children. Students were away from parents, isolated, stripped of cultural identity, and were even forbidden to speak their native language. In almost all cases, these schools were housed inside of churches, 3/5 of which were Roman Catholic churches, where incredible amounts of rape, beatings, and other forms of abuse took place.
Let's stop it there. You understand? They're showing you exactly how Esau took the Native American Indian tribes of North America, mainly who was the Gadites, Simeon, and forcefully put them into these Edomite schools, Catholic Edomite schools, all throughout Canada, and began the re-education, the extermination, the rape, the torture, the brainwashing of the Native American Indian tribes to take away their heritage, who they truly were. Listen carefully to what they're saying. We'll just back it up a little bit again. This is what they did. They put them in their schools. This is how they caused the Northern Kingdom to discontinue from their heritage. This is what Esau did. When people start to doubt whether these Native American Indian tribes of North, South America and Canada are the descendants of the true children of Israel, this is what Esau did to discontinue Israel from their heritage. This was part of Esau's master plan. This is how Esau was able to steal the identities, right, of the Israelites and put it on another set of people, calling them Israelis. This is what they did. This was a systematic program that was going on in Canada, America, and South America, where the Edomites ruled and controlled and conquered. This is what they did. This is what they did to the Native American Indian tribes. So they think their apology that they gave on June the 11th, 2008 is somehow going to absolve them from their judgment, from what they did. Because remember what Psalms 83 says. They were confederate together in doing these things. So listen carefully again. Listen carefully. I'm going to play it out for you this time.
To offer an apology to former students of Indian residential schools.
When most Canadians think of Canada's darkest moments, they will often think residential schools. It began in 1876 when Canada opened its first of these schools. Put in place by the British Canadian government, they were an attempt at turning Native American children into clean, English-speaking British Canadian citizens. This was done in many cases by forcefully taking these young children away from their parents and placing them into schools where any and all native traditions and beliefs were taken out of these children. Students were away from parents, isolated, stripped of cultural identity, and were even forbidden to speak their native language. In almost all cases, these schools were housed inside of churches, 3/5 of which...
See? Looking unto Jesus. That's what they sold them. White Jesus. White Jesus is what they sold the Native American Indian tribes. The same thing that they sold the Negroes during the transatlantic slave trade. They sold us white Jesus. White Jesus. They sold us the devil and told you that's who you need to worship. This is what Esau did. They gave you the devil. They told you his name was Jesus Christ. They gave you his image, blonde hair, blue eyes, pale skin, red skin, and told you to worship this man here. This is what they did. Looking unto Jesus. Listen up.
Were Roman Catholic churches, where incredible amounts of rape, beatings, and other forms of abuse took place.
Here it says, amounts of rapes, beatings, and all sorts of torture was taking place. This is what they were doing.
schools were housed inside of churches, 3/5 of which were Roman Catholic churches, where incredible amounts of rape, beatings, and other forms of abuse took place. Death tolls were so high among these children that nearly 6% of those who entered schools passed away. Elders of Brandon, Manitoba tell of a shocking story that took place at the top of a nearby hill. At the top of this hill was a church, which, like many, was a home to a residential school. Screams of terror and agony from young children are said to have been heard by many throughout the city on a daily basis. Despite this, these stories and facts were pushed under the rug and were found only at the back of Canadian history textbooks for decades. In total, an estimated 150,000 First Nations, Inuit, and Métis children attended these residential schools. As shocking as it is, the last residential school was only closed as recently as 1996. It wasn't until 2008 that the then Prime Minister of Canada, Stephen Harper, on behalf of the Government of Canada, offered a formal apology to those placed in the Aboriginal residential schooling system.
The treatment of children in Indian residential schools is a sad chapter in our history. Indeed, some saw it, as was infamously said, to kill the Indian in the child.
You see, Esau thinks his apology is going to absolve him of his judgment. That's what this devil thinks. This is what Esau did. They stole the identity of the true children of Israel, who are your Native American Indians, today who they call Latinos, Hispanics, Mexicans, and Puerto Ricans, the indigenous people of North and South America and Canada, your Negroes, those who descend from the transatlantic slave trade, today what they call African Americans, West Indians, and Caribbeans and Haitians. Those are the true children of Israel. They stole your identity and then they gave it to another nation of Edomites who are Amalekites, Amalek, who go back to Esau. Amalek is Esau's grandson, and they call them Israelis, and they call themselves Jewish, Ish, which means to pertain to. They're not the true children of Israel. Why? I mean, this scripture here tells you alone. This is the prophecy that what was going to happen to the true children of Israel, that they were going to be discontinued from their heritage. Jeremiah 17:4. O thou, talking about the children of Israel, even thyself shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thy enemies in the land which thou knowest not, for you have kindled a fire in my anger, which shall burn forever. That was part of the judgment. That was part of the judgment that the Lord put on us, to allow Esau to take us, to put us on slave ships, to go to the Americas, to take hold of the northern kingdom of Israel, to also bind them in fetters of iron and put them on slave ships also. They stole their land, they raped their women, they killed their children, they took away all of their resources, and then they put them into their Edomite, Catholic and Protestant schools to westernize them, to Edomize them, to make them become Edomites. That's what they did. They changed their names. They weren't allowed to speak their language. Remember, they were praising Yahweh. They were praising Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. They was praising Yahweh. They knew the Most High's name. They wrote in Hebrew. They spoke different patches of Hebrew. So when Esau came and saw all of that, they knew for them to be able to keep up the biggest lie ever, for them to be able to take hold of the Most High's people, this is what they did. So if we go to 2nd Ezra's, but this is how they ended up in the Americas, right? The story of their journey to America is written in the book of 2nd Ezra's. 2nd Ezra's chapter 13. 2 Ezra chapter 13, it says, and whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, those are the 10 tribes, which is the northern kingdom. Remember, that's Simeon, Zebulun, Ephraim, Manasseh, Gad, Reuben, Naphtali, Asher, Issachar. All right? And some of the priests were mixed amongst them. Some of the Levites were mixed amongst them. These are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hoshea the king, right? Whom Shalmaneser, the king of Syria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land. Now, 2 Kings chapter 17 tells you about the downfall of the northern kingdom. 2 Kings chapter 17 verse 1. In the 20th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, began Hoshea, the son of Elah, to reign in Samaria over Israel 9 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh, but not as the kings of Israel that were before him. Against him came up Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, and Hoshea became his servant and gave him presents. And the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea, which was the king of the northern kingdom of Israel. Because at this point, Israel is split into 2 kingdoms, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. And Hoshea is the king of the northern kingdom, which is referred to as the kingdom of Israel. So, and the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea, for he had sent messengers to the sole king of Egypt and brought no presents to the king of Assyria as he had done year by year. Therefore, the king of Assyria shut him up and bound him in prison. Then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land and went up to Samaria, which is the northern kingdom, and besieged it 3 years. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria and placed them in Hala and in Harbor by the river of Gozan in the cities of the Medes. For so it was, the children of Israel, which is the northern kingdom, had sinned against the Lord, Yahweh their power. They stopped following the laws, commandments, and statutes. They sinned against the Most High, worshipping idols, taking on other beliefs. They were mixing with the other nations. They were taking on their customs. All right. For so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against the Lord their power, which had brought them up out of the land of Egypt, from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And he feared other gods, and walked in the statutes. This is what they did. They walked in the statutes of the heathen, whom the Lord Yahweh cast out from before the children of Israel. All right. And the kings of Israel, which they had made, and the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right against the Lord Yahweh their power. And they built them high places in their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced city. And they set them up images and groves in every high hill and under every high tree. All these different heathen places of worship they were setting up in the northern kingdom to pray and to worship. And they were making idols and putting these idols in these groves, right? And praying to them and worshipping to these idols made out of clay and stone and brass. It says, and there they burnt incense in all the high places, as did the heathens, whom the Lord Yahweh carried away before them, and wrought wicked things to provoke the Lord Yahweh to anger. For they served idols, whereof the Lord Yahweh had said unto them, ye shall not do these things. And that's what they did. And that's why they were carried away into captivity. And then when King Shalmaneser took them and brought them to Assyria, into the lands of the Medes, all right, this is when Israel came to the Americas. They spent 25 years in captivity. It says there, these are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hoshea, which we just read about, the king, who Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria, led away captive. And he carried them over the waters, that so they came into another land. Right? So they was in the land of the Medes now. The waters that they came over was the river Euphrates. That's what they crossed. Right? The Tigris and the Euphrates, to come to the land of the Medes. And this is where the northern kingdom was taken into captivity. Then it says here, but they took this counsel amongst themselves, right? The Israelites took this counsel amongst themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. All right. So after they spent that 25 years in captivity under the king of Assyria, they decided not to go back to the land of Israel. They wanted to find a new land so that they could start afresh to praise and worship the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. So this is what they did, that they might there keep their statutes. So just like it says there, but they took this counsel amongst themselves, the Israelites, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen, right, which was the Assyrians, and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. That's America. That they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. They wanted to start over afresh. And they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. For the Most High then showed them signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over, because that was known as the most rockiest parts of the sea was coming around the Horn of Africa. All right, because that's the way they had to go, out the Euphrates into the Persian Sea, around the Horn of Africa, into the Atlantic Sea, over to the Americas. So it says here, for through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, that's how long the journey took. And the same region is called Azareth. That's where they came. Azareth, which means in the Hebrew, it means like new lands, new country, new lands. Right? It says, then dwelt they there until the latter time, which is now, and now when they shall begin to come. Those were the southern kingdom that came during the transatlantic slave trade. The southern kingdom came to the Americas literally 2,000 years after the northern kingdom had been in the Americas for roughly, they left around 700 BC. So they were there for roughly 2,200 years before the southern kingdom joined them, coming on the transatlantic slave ships from the west coast of Africa. That's when Esau took the southern kingdom into captivity and brought them to the Americas. So the northern kingdom at this point now had been in the Americas for 2,200 years, because they never ever went back to their homeland when the king of Assyria, Shalmaneser, the fifth of Assyria, took the northern kingdom into captivity. The Israelites, the northern kingdom, which was run, the kings came from Ephraim, mainly from the tribe of Ephraim were the kings, never went back to the land of Israel. Just like it shows you right here. They took that journey that took them to the Americas, a region called Azareth, which means new land. It was a place, America had never ever been inhabited before. That side of the world, the western side of the world, had never been inhabited before by humans. Everybody lived in the east, in what we know as Mesopotamia. All right? Today, what they call Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iran, Syria, Israel, Egypt, as well as Africa. Right? Everyone lived in Africa, on the east side in Africa, and in Mesopotamia in the east. No one had lived in the west. This was the first encounters of people going to the west. And this is what they did. So when they had gone to the west, they took that journey after being in captivity for around 20 years under Shalmaneser V, the northern kingdom, because this is what Shalmaneser did. He took people, I'm going to read it here. It says, for the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam. So we're in 2 Kings chapter 17 verse 22. For the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam, which he did. Jeroboam was the first king of the northern kingdom. When the kingdom of Israel split after Solomon died, Solomon's son took control of the southern kingdom. His name was Rehoboam, and Jeroboam took control of the northern kingdom. And he was the first king of the northern kingdom. Now, that was also prophesied that the kingdom was going to split between Solomon's son and his adversary Jeroboam, because the prophet Nathan came to Solomon to tell him this was going to happen after his death, that the kingdom was going to split into two because of the things that Solomon did. Because remember, Solomon sinned as well. Solomon allowed his wives to build groves in places of worship that heathens worshipped in the land of Israel. He allowed his wives to have he allowed his heathen wives to have heathen places of worship in the kingdom of Israel. So it says here, until the Lord removed Israel out of his sight. That's what he did. He removed them way out of his sight. As he had said by all his servants, the prophets, so was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day, because they never ever came back to the land of Assyria. And the king of Assyria, listen carefully, and the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon and from Cuthah and from Ava and from Hamath and from Seraphim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. So Shalmaneser V, the king of Assyria, took the people from his kingdom out of Babylon and from Cuthah and from Ava and from Hamath, all the cities that were under the Assyrian Empire. He took people from all the different cities and he placed them in the land of Samaria, which is the northern kingdom. So this is why when the Lord said to the disciples, go you seek the lost sheep of the house of Israel, but do not go to the Gentiles or the Samaritans, because the Samaritans were the Samaritans, right? This is why the Lord Yahushua said that, Matthew 10, because he knew who was in. The Lord knew who was in there. The Lord knew, and so did the southern kingdom know who lived in Samaria. This is why the Lord said that. These 12 Yahushua sent forth and commanded them, saying, go not into the way of the Gentiles or into any city of the Samaritans, enter ye not. The Samaritans is the city of the Samaritans is Samaria, which is the northern kingdom. Why did the Lord say that? He said, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Why did the Lord say that? Because the people that lived in Samaria now were not Israelites. The king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, right? And from Cuthah, and from Ava, and from Hamath, and from Seraphim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria, which is the Samaritans, instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. That's why the Lord said that. Because the Israelites from the northern kingdom were no longer living as a nation in the northern kingdom. It was just the southern kingdom. Yes, there were Israelites from the northern kingdom tribes. There were Israelites from the northern kingdoms that lived amongst the Israelites in the southern kingdom. Right? Just so you understand, there were Israelites from Issachar, Asher, Naphtali, Reuben, Gad, Manasseh, Ephraim, Zebulun, Simeon that lived amongst the Israelites in the southern kingdom. But the northern kingdom as a nation no longer lived in the northern kingdom. No longer lived there. They had now gone to the Americas after spending 25 years in captivity under Shalmaneser V. They said, but they took counsel amongst themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. That was the Americas. That's where they went. They went to the Americas. They never ever went back to Israel, the northern kingdom, after they spent that 25 years in captivity under Shalmaneser V. So now let me just go up to, I'm going to show you another clip of this video. Where did I want to go to in this video?
A solid meal.
Remarkable. Deep in the downstairs bathroom, Maggie's making the world a better place with her
He's so with their nastiness. I want to see nobody going to the toilet.
In 1885, a proposal for a system of segregation between whites and First Nations was signed by Prime Minister Sir John A. Macdonald. This was a shocking proposal that forced new rules onto reserves and Native Americans who lived on those reserves. It meant people were not allowed to leave their reserve unless they had a specific pass from a special Indian agent. The government of Canada knew that this had no basis in law, yet for over 6 decades, this illegal proposal went on. It applied to all Native Americans living within Canada. Any Native American caught outside of their reserve without a pass was immediately arrested and often sent to prison. In order to even visit family members in nearby reserves, they had to get approval and a permit from these agents. Now, clearly there was a purpose in all of this, and it was to hold control over the Aboriginal people, as well as stopping them from entering towns and cities populated mainly by whites. This segregated the two cultures from each other at the expense of Native American freedom.
You understand how Esau had his hand on the neck of the natives, just like how he had his hand on the neck of the Negroes, today what they call African Americans and West Indians and Caribbeans. The same way how Esau was dealing with the Negroes in America, Canada and the West Indies and South America, was the same way Esau was dealing with the Native American Indians. Because Esau knows and knew back then that the Native American Indian tribes and the Negroes that they had in slavery are all descended from the 12 tribes of Israel. Esau knows and knew back then that the Native American Indians and the Negroes are the Israelites of the Bible. These are the true people of God. These are the true children of Israel. Because all of the curses that Moses spoke about, happened to the Native American Indian tribes of North, South America, Canada, and the West Indies, and to the Negroes who were taken into slavery via the transatlantic slave trade.
Didn't want their white citizens being impacted and disturbed by Native Americans.
Can you see how dark a lot of these Indians are? Esau tried to mix up in their seed to breed them out, to get them looking lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. This man is the devil himself, what he did to our people, boy. He's got so much to pay for. Esau's got so much to pay for, family.
In an attempt to hide this dark part of Canada's history, the Canadian government ordered all passes that they had handed out to be returned to Ottawa for destruction in 1941.
See that?
The government ordered all passes that they had handed.
So did not the Negroes during slavery needed a pass to go from one town to another, to leave the plantations and go into the town to buy supplies for their master, to go from one plantation to another? Did not Negroes have to have a pass? The same thing Esau was doing to the Negroes that was in slavery, he was doing to the Native American Indian tribes. Why? Because this man knows and knew back then that these people were all the children of Israel, that these people were all the Israelites that the Bible speaks of. The same treatment that he was doing to the slaves, he was doing to the Native American Indians in North, South America, Canada, and the West Indies. They needed passes just like us. You couldn't leave your plantation and say you're going to visit your slaves on another plantation, or you're going to collect something from another master's house, another plantation, without having a pass. You could not leave your plantation and go anywhere without this devil giving you a pass. So the same treatment he put out on us, he put on them. Because this devil knew who we were. This devil knew who we all were.
To be returned to Ottawa for destruction in 1941.
You hear that? And then they tried to destroy the history, what they was doing. They ordered them to send in their passes in 1940 so that they can destroy all of the evidence of what this devil has done. I think it was Napoleon that said, Napoleon made a statement where he said, history is a set of lies agreed upon. History is a set of lies agreed upon. I think that's Napoleon made that statement. Napoleon Bonaparte, all right? And that's Esau. The history according to Esau is a set of lies agreed upon. They agreed to call those Eastern Europeans in the land of Israel, who call themselves Israelis, they agreed to say that they are the children of Israel. That was all agreed upon via all of their institutions. This is what Esau did. This man is the devil.
Living within Canada. Any Native American caught outside of their reserve without a pass was immediately arrested and often sent to prison. In order to even visit family members in nearby reserves, they had to get approval and a permit from these agents. Now, clearly there was a purpose in all of this, and it was to hold control over the Aboriginal people, as well as stopping them from entering towns and cities populated mainly by whites. This segregated the two cultures from each other at the expense of Native American freedom. The government didn't want their white citizens being impacted and disturbed by Native Americans. In an attempt to hide this dark part of Canada's history, the Canadian government ordered all passes that they had handed out to be returned to Ottawa for destruction in 1941.
Devil.
Today, the very lasting effects of this can still be seen all over Canada, as a striking cultural divide between Native Americans from the rest of society still remains. African American slavery in the United States undoubtedly left a truly dark patch on American history. We all know of the Underground Railway that saw many black slaves fleeing their owners in an attempt at freedom in Canada. This is where the history of slavery and Canada often comes to an end. However, while Canada likes to be portrayed as having been a safe haven for American slaves, Canada has its own dark history of slavery. Throughout the 1700s, Canadians from all walks of life owned slaves, from military officers to blacksmiths to even priests. Owning a slave was a status symbol that many sought after, so much so that many actually went into severe debt just to own one. Slaves were advertised in paper ads and were sold in slave auctions and handed down just as possessions and farm animals were. While many slaves at the time were Native Americans, 2/3 to be exact, black slaves...
Did you hear that? Listen carefully again to what he said about the Native American Indians. Listen carefully. When I tell you that, when you read Deuteronomy 28 and 48, we're going to go there. Listen carefully again to what he says here. Because people seem to doubt when we tell you that these Native American Indians went into slavery just like the Negro went into slavery. They put fetters of irons around these Native American Indians just like how they put fetters of irons around the Negro. They sold them just like how they sold the Negro. They raped their women just like how they raped the Negro women. They raped their children just like how they raped the Negro children. This is what Esau did. So when people try to say, oh, the Native American Indians didn't go into slavery, oh, they wasn't put on slave ships, there wasn't fetters of irons put around their neck. Well, let me tell you, the same thing that happened to the Negro happened to the Native American Indians. They were put on slave ships and sent to Esau's colonies around the world that he colonized. They were sold on auction blocks in the Americas, in Canada, America, the West Indies and Caribbean. They were killed, their land was stolen, their children were raped, their women were raped, they were tortured, they were whipped. All of these things that happened to the Negro also happened to the Native American Indian tribes. Why? Because they are the 12 tribes of Israel. They are the southern kingdom. They are the northern kingdom. They are our brothers. Listen carefully to what he says.
Slaves were advertised in paper ads and were sold in slave auctions and handed down just as possessions and farm animals were. While many slaves at the time were Native Americans, 2/3 to be exact, black slaves were twice as expensive and were seen as the best of...
You hear that? Though many slaves were Native American Indians,
possessions and farm animals were. While many slaves at the time were Native Americans, 2/3 to be exact, blacks.
Hear that? 2/3 to be exact. So 2/3, these are pictures of Native American Indians in fetters of iron. He said 2/3 of the slaves that were sold in Canada were not Negroes, they were Native American Indians. So only 1/3 of the slaves that were sold in the Americas, in Canada, sorry, were Negroes. 2/3. So 70% of the slaves that were sold in Canada were Native American Indians. So when you hear people try to tell you, oh, the only people that are Israelites are so-called Negroes, it's total bullshit. Total BS. The Native American Indians were also put into slavery under this devil and were sold under this devil. Why? Because they are also part of the 12 tribes of Israel. They are also Israelites. So when it says here, therefore, Deuteronomy 28 and 48, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which is Esau, which the Lord Yahweh shall send against thee in hunger, because you have to go to this man for everything, for your food, in thirst, and in nakedness, for your clothing, for your food, for your drink. You have to go to this devil for all these things. We're serving our enemies in want of all things. And he shall what? And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he has destroyed thee. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he has destroyed. So what are you seeing right here? Are these not yokes of iron that were put on the Native American Indian's neck? And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck. A yoke of iron upon thy neck. Every one of them have got a yoke of iron upon their neck.
Advertised in paper ads and were sold in slave auctions and handed down just as possessions and farm animals were. While many slaves at the time were Native Americans, 2/3 to be.
While many slaves at the time were Native American Indians, 2/3 to be exact, he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck. So what happened to them also happened to the Negro. What happened to the Negro also happened to the Native American Indian tribes. There's no separating the judgment that's happened to us. This curse, the curses in Deuteronomy 28 was put upon the whole house of Israel, not just on Negroes or the Southern Kingdom, on the whole house of Israel. And the Native American Indian tribes of North, South America, Canada, and the West Indies are the Northern Kingdom. The Northern Kingdom.
Animals were. While many slaves at the time were Native Americans, 2/3 to be exact, black slaves were twice as expensive and were seen as the best of the best. Of all slaves owned, over 80% were owned only by the French living in Lower Canada, or known today as Quebec.
Yeah.
Thus, it makes sense that the last slave auction was held in Quebec in 1790.
Yeah, a gentleman going to England has for sale a Negro wench with her child, about 26 years of age, who understands thoroughly every kind of housework, particularly washing and cookery, and a stout Negro boy, 13 years old, also a good horse, Caroline and harness. For particulars, inquire at Mr. William Roxburgh, Uptown. Well, let me tell you something, Mr. William Roxburgh. You and your children are going to go into captivity. You and your children are going to be sold on auction blocks. Your children, your children's children, your children's 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 children. It's going to go on for 1,000 years when the Lord comes. You're going to spend 1,000 years in hardcore slavery, Mr. William Roxburgh. Enjoy.
And by 1833, slavery as a whole was finally abolished, about the same time that the Underground Railway was beginning to form.
If you were going to, you've got to try Monday.com. Go to Monday.com and manage all your team's work.
You understand? So when we go back to Deuteronomy, and it says here, therefore thou shalt serve thine enemies, which the Lord Yahweh shall send against thee. Listen carefully. Remember Moses said, right? I'm going to show you this clip again, right? A different clip again. Moses said here, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord Yahweh thy power, to observe to do all these commandments and these statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. And remember, this is talking to the children of Israel, all right? All of these curses. So we're talking about the curse in verse 48. It says, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, all right? Therefore shalt thou serve thy enemies, which the Lord Yahweh shall send against thee, which is Esau, in hunger, in thirst, in nakedness, in want of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon your neck until he has destroyed thee. Right? And we saw the yoke of iron. So let's go. How did he destroy us? How did this devil destroy us? Just watch the first 2 minutes of this video again. This is how he destroyed us, this devil.
I stand before you today to offer an apology to former students of Indian residential schools.
When most Canadians think of Canada's darkest moments, they will often think residential schools. It began in 1876 when Canada opened its first of these schools. Put in place by the British Canadian government, they were an attempt at turning Native American children into clean, English-speaking British Canadian citizens. This was done in many cases by forcefully taking these young children away from their parents and placing them into schools where any and all Native traditions and beliefs were taken out of these children. Students were away from parents, isolated, stripped of cultural identity, and were even forbidden to speak their native language. In almost all cases, these schools were housed inside of churches, 3/5 of which were Roman Catholic churches, where incredible amounts of rape, beatings, and other forms of abuse took place. Death tolls were so high among these children that nearly 6% of those who entered schools passed away. Elders of Brandon, Manitoba tell of a shocking story that took place at the top of a nearby hill. At the top of this hill was a church, which, like many, was a home to a residential school. Screams of terror and agony from young children are said to have been heard by many throughout the city on a daily basis. Despite this, these stories and facts were pushed under the rug and were found only at the back of Canadian history textbooks for decades. In total,
Right? Deuteronomy 28, verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thy eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. The fruit of thy land and all thy labours shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always. So thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people. Ain't that what they did? They took away their children, people. They took away their children. Listen carefully what they did. This is what this devil's apologizing for. I'm sorry I've got to keep playing this over and over again. But you truly have to understand when I tell you that the Native American Indian tribes of North, South America and Canada and the West Indies are the children of Israel. They derive from the northern kingdom of Israel. Listen.
Before you today to offer an apology to former students of Indian residential schools.
When most Canadians think of Canada's darkest moments, they will often think residential schools. It began in 1876 when Canada opened its first of these schools. Put in place by the British Canadian government, they were an attempt at turning Native American children into clean, English-speaking British Canadian citizens.
Right. So they took away their children. The scripture says, Deuteronomy 28 verse 32, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thy eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. No might in thy hand. The fruit of thy land and all thy labour shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always, so that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see. Are you kidding me? These are the children of Israel. These are the northern kingdom. This is Simeon, Zebulun, Ephraim, Manasseh, Gad, Reuben, Naphtali, Asher, Issachar. That's who they are. This is what they did to the Indians.
Done in many cases by forcefully taking these young children away from their parents and placing them into schools where any...
Yeah, that forcefully taking their kids away from their parents and placing them in schools. What does the prophecy say? Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people. Forcefully taken away your children, and thine eyes shall look and fell with longing for them all day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. That's what's going on here. Listen to what the man says. They're forcefully taken away their children.
This was done in many cases by forcefully taking these young children away from their parents and placing them into schools where any and all native traditions and beliefs were taken out of these children. Students were away from parents, isolated, stripped of cultural identity, and were even forbidden to speak their native language.
Yeah, they were stripped of cultural identity and forbidden to speak their language. They gave them white Jesus. They gave them that bastard language, English. Come on, man. Remember what the book of Hosea says, right? Hosea chapter 1, verse 10. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered, and it shall come to pass that in that place, the United States of America, the Americas, where it shall be said unto them, ye are not my people, because that's why they call them Native American Indians. That's why they call you Negroes, African Americans, West Indians, and Caribbeans, and Puerto Ricans, and Mexicans, and Latinos. In that place it shall be said unto them, ye are not my people. There it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living power. Then shall the children of Judah, which is the southern kingdom, Negroes, African Americans, West Indians, and Caribbeans, Haitians. Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel, the children of Israel are who? Native American Indians. Today who they call Latinos, Hispanics, Mexicans, and Puerto Ricans. All right? And the children of Israel shall be what? Gathered together and appoint themselves one head. And they shall come up out of the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel. The Lord is coming to deliver the true children of Israel, and the greatest deliverance is going to take place in the Americas. Why? Because all of the 12 tribes are in America. And when I say all of the 12 tribes are in America, if we're looking for one place where all the 12 tribes are, that's America. And then the rest of the 12 tribes are scattered to the four corners of the world. Are you kidding me, people? Thy sons and thy daughters. That's what they did.
Almost all cases, these schools were housed inside of churches.
And then they gave you white Jesus. White Jesus they gave you. Man, this devil, boy, this Esau is something else, boy. These Edomites have got so much to pay. You see, I can't wait for the day. The day is coming when they're going to know that they put their hands on the children of God, that they had put their hands on the apple of the Most High's eye. And truly, when that day comes, when the Lord comes to deliver his children, when he comes to wage war with these Edomites and these heathens that played a part in our destruction, there's no let up, There's not going to be no let up, family.
Of which were Roman Catholic churches, where incredible amounts of rape, beatings, and other forms of abuse took place.
Yeah, that rapes, beatings, and other forms of abuse took place. This is what they did. Rapes, beatings, and other forms of abuse took place. So if we go back to Deuteronomy, we jump up here. Oh, sorry, not a bit down here, a bit more. It says, the Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. So what is this? Looking unto Jesus. Is that not another God? Did they not give them white Jesus? And there thou shalt serve other gods. They gave them Jesus Christ. That's what they sold the Israelites in captivity. This is what they sold the Native American in. This is what they sold the Negroes in slavery. They sold you white Jesus, which was a curse, which was one of the prophecies in the Bible, right? So today we're not just serving white Jesus. You've got many Israelites that are worshipping Islam, another God, worshipping Muhammad, Buddha, another God. But what Esau gave you was white Jesus. And so many of our people are serving white Jesus. Don't even know that what they're doing is fulfilling prophecy. The Lord thy power shall bring thee and thy king, your rulers, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. That's talking about the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. Jesus Christ is another God. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, a byword among all nations whither the Lord Jehovah shall lead thee. Nigger, coon, spick, wetback, monkey. Fucking, they call you Red Indians, Apache, they got all these different names. Tonto. Are you kidding me? You become an astonishment and a proverb and a byword to these devils. And amongst all the nations whither the Lord shall lead thee. So all the other places that the Israelites are scattered to will become a byword to this devil and to these heathens. Everyone's got a name for the Negro.
Catholic churches, where incredible amounts of rape, beatings, and other forms of abuse took place. Death tolls were so high among these children that nearly 6% of those who entered schools passed away. Elders of Brandon, Manitoba tell of a shocking story that took place at the top of a nearby hill. At the top of this hill was a church, which, like many, was a home to a residential school. Screams of terror and agony from young children are said to have been heard by many throughout the city on a daily basis. Despite this, these stories and facts were pushed under the rug and were found only at the back of Canadian history textbooks for decades. In total, an estimated 150,000 First Nations, Inuit, and Métis children attended these residential schools. As shocking as it is, the last residential school was only closed as recently as 1996.
Yeah, that 1996. That's roughly 25 years ago was the last residential school that these devils created.
Until 2008 that the then Prime Minister of Canada, Stephen Harper, on behalf of the Government of Canada, offered a formal apology to those placed in the Aboriginal residential schooling system.
The treatment of children in Indian residential schools is a sad chapter in our history. Indeed, some sought, as was infamously said, to kill the Indian in the child.
Yeah, to kill the Indian and the child.
Sought, as was infamously said, to kill the Indian in the child.
To kill the Indian and the child. You hear that? To kill the Indian and the child. They wanted to wipe out Israel. They tried to wipe you out, Israel. These devils tried to wipe you out. Contemplate on that anyway. I'm gonna call it a day because my spirit is riled up right now. I just need the Lord to calm me down. Truly, to calm me down, because I tell you what, Esau, no amount of apology is gonna absolve you from your judgment. No amount of apology is going to save you from your judgment. No amount of apology is going to absolve you from what is coming. Just so you understand. So on that note, family, I pray this was an edifying lesson to all the brothers and sisters that tuned in live, and for those of you that may tune in later. I want to give all praises and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim, Rakah, Kodash, Tawada. Until we meet again, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. And I pray this was an edifying lesson to the brothers and sisters that tuned in live, for those of you that may tune in later. As I say again, my fellow Native American Indian tribes of North and South America and Canada, you are Israelites. Just like the Negroes that descend from the transatlantic slave trade today, who they call African Americans, West Indians, and Caribbeans and Haitians, we are all from the 12 tribes of Israel. We are God's chosen people. His peculiar people. We are the apple of the Most High's eye. All praises. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh Shai. 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 Until we meet again, Shalom, 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 family.